I did it. Okay. Hi, everybody. Oh, gosh. Okay, never mind. It's coming off. Lots of awesome art projects. That really stretched my brain because I'm not an art person, but glad to be here. My name is Riley. I chair an organization called Oregon Green Schools. I also work for a nonprofit called New Buildings Institute, and I'm really focused on green and sustainable schools. I love the poster back there about climate-friendly school buildings. Heck yeah. Just super quickly want to introduce this event. This is the Student Climate Panel. I'm going to let them introduce themselves because I won't do a very good job of it. But have some great questions for them. They're going to ask some questions of each other and just enjoy time talking to each other.
Hey y'all, I'm Shiva again.
Hi, I'm JJ and I'm a junior at Lincoln.
Okay, my name is Adah. I use she, they pronouns. I'm a senior at Grant.
My name is Phoebe. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a senior at Forest Grove.
My name is Sariah. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a junior at Franklin.
I'm Ellie. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a junior at Roosevelt.
And we're excited to have all these folks on our panel to talk about just what it's like to be a climate activist today in Portland, and how they do their work and how they inspire all y'all and how they take care of themselves. So it's really cool. So cool to be with y'all. Should we just start with our first question? And hey, everyone take notes on questions y'all want to have, because we're gonna spend 20 minutes with our little pre-structured questions, and then y'all get an opportunity to ask your own questions, and you got to grill these guys. So yeah, you want to do the first one?
Yeah. Okay. Sariah, we wanted to ask you, how has being an organizer and activist helped in other areas of your life? Yeah.
Okay. Being an activist has really helped me appreciate what I'm fighting for and why I fight for it. It helps me realize that there's still things here to fight for. And being an organizer has really helped organize the rest of my life. It taught me how to balance things and just how to keep myself organized in all my life parts.
Yeah, totally. I totally understand that. Ellie, want to ask, can you pinpoint one organizing experience that's sort of been a light bulb moment of inspiration for you?
Yeah, so, wow. Okay, that's on. This year in my climate class, who I'm here with today, we're working on our capstone projects for the past 3 months-ish. And before that, we were learning about the climate change response policy that PPS put out. And I realized that my specific community didn't know a lot about the policy and hadn't heard much of it, and it was pretty new, past few years, but we didn't know much about it. And I thought I would take the opportunity where I had a dedicated time to work on a project on something I was passionate about to create a very short, it's not long, very short documentary outlining the policy, talking to people who were involved in its creation, people who worked to enforce it, XYZ. So I've interviewed people over the past month and a half and currently working on editing with some minor editing software setbacks. But I think that moment of realizing that I could use what I'm passionate about to educate my community was really important for me. Yeah.
Powerful stuff. Adah, how do you stay grounded in your climate work? How do you take care of yourself? How do you regenerate and stay involved in what you're doing and stay invested?
Yeah, I will say I've been very involved in the climate movement in Portland since I was in 7th grade. And it's been pretty exhausting. It's really difficult to stay motivated to do this work, especially when it feels like there's so many losses and so few wins. And I really, in a lot of ways, I resent the fact that I've spent so much of my teenage years lobbying elected officials and giving testimony, and that has in so many ways consumed my life. But really, I feel like what keeps me going in this work is just the knowledge that I am not fighting this fight alone, and that I have met so many incredible people through climate organizing, people who have taught me more about myself and about the world than I really feel like I could ever learn in school. And yeah, I think just the knowledge that, yes, we are driven in this fight by fear and by anger and just by this like kind of existential dread for our futures, but also because we care about one another and we care about protecting our home and we care about ensuring that future generations don't have to do this work. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And so speaking of feeling inspired, Phoebe, maybe you could pinpoint an experience or a light bulb moment of inspiration in your sustainability and climate journey.
It was actually about this time last year, there was a proposed development of about 600 houses on a really beautiful green space by my house. And I, along with Riley, actually, I was able to organize kind of a project to fight the city board on it. And I was able to create a pretty good argument, lots and lots of documents and lots of writing. And we were able to bring it to city council and say some very strongly worded things to them. And it, as far as I know, has been stopped. There's been no building, there's been no progress or anything like that. And up until that point, I hadn't really been able to get involved with anything regarding my climate activism passion, and that really showed me that I was able to be heard and I had the ability to make others, especially adults, listen to me and see my point of view.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Phoebe. I think that now that we've just sort of gotten to know each of you, if you could spend just like a couple minutes talking about projects that you've worked on or just experiences you've had as climate activists.
How'd y'all get involved?
Yeah, like what are some projects that you feel have like really been like most impactful or most inspiring, or projects that you feel like have failed that you want to just sort of take a moment to recognize that not everything is going to be a success? Adah?
All right, so I started organizing when I was in 7th grade at Harriet Tubman Middle School, which is right next to one of the busiest parts of the Interstate 5 freeway. My classmates and I started learning about the impact of pollution on our school. Because when we would walk outside to recess, there would be a field and a playground, and then right there's all of these massive diesel trucks that are polluting our air, and diesel pollution has been linked to asthma and lung cancer. And so we got involved advocating for legislation that would regulate diesel pollution in the state of Oregon, and that bill passed, which felt like a really big victory. And then it sort of felt like a slap in the face to turn around and see that the Oregon Department of Transportation had plans to widen the freeway even further, and it would essentially cut into the hillside that Tubman sits on. And a project that I will note here, PPS hasn't come out against. PPS is willing to make the school relocate to go along with ODOT's freeway widening plans. Yeah, and so that was a pretty eye-opening experience into the way that a lot of government people and school board people that say that care about us actually care more about freeways sometimes. And so that very much kickstarted my organizing. Since then, I have worked with Portland Youth Climate Strike. I don't know if anyone was at the strike on Friday, but we helped to organize that along with other strikes over the past couple of years. And then I'm also working with the Sunrise Movement on the Green New Deal for Schools campaign, where we are fighting to transform our school system in a way that will prepare us to meet the stakes of the climate crisis.
I have got to be honest, I come from a pretty rural area. There's not much climate activism going on out there. But I will say, kind of like what Adah said, I was able to kind of fight that development, get it delayed, get it stopped, but then I turned right back around. They are building they're just expanding the other direction of Forest Grove, just not by where I live. And that was kind of a slap in the face because it was a lot of work, and they just kind of decided to progress somewhere else. So it was really uplifting, and at the same time, it was really disheartening. And yeah, that's what I got.
I only started learning about climate change only last year. I didn't really know the effects of climate change until winter break of last year when I started researching on my own, and it really rattled me. So I decided to start a club at my school for climate action. That has been really good because it uses my skills of leadership and organization, and it has really opened my eyes to how many people want to help the cause, just doesn't know how to. And it's been really fun to meet new people and organize new events and such.
Well, I guess my first experience with climate activism was, I can't remember, it was either 6th or 7th grade when my school organized, well, the 8th graders at my school organized a walkout into this courtyard we had outside of our school. And I remember our teachers telling us about it, which you don't see. Teachers aren't like, hey, go to this. But it was that moment where my humanities teacher looked at us and was like, go, walk out of my classroom right now. And it was one of those moments in your life where you're like, whoa, people care about this. And it kind of inspired a journey of sorts. And now I work for Roosevelt's school newspaper, and I've used my art, so we do one article per person per month. And I've used my articles, 3 of my however many this year, maybe 4, to write about our climate and about PPS and the policy and the Benson remodel and all this stuff that we've been talking about for the past few months. And I think that was kind of one of those moments where I was like, this is my voice and this is how I can use what I have access to. So, yeah.
Yeah. So Sariah and Ellie, you kind of mentioned about what you've done in your school communities to get involved with just sort of climate activism in general. So what sort of advice do you have for anyone who's sitting in the audience right now wondering how they can get involved? I know it's a tough question.
Okay. I think be bold, and it's about doing what you think your community needs and what you think you can do for them, not what other people think you should and allow you to. It's about breaking those boundaries that people set out for you and saying, no, this is how far I can go, this is what I can teach people, and I can't teach them what you want me to, I can teach them what I want to. Yeah, I think that's important. Just know you, and they want to learn from you, they don't want to learn from the people who don't want to teach them.
I would say use your resources. There's probably lots of organizations around you that are helping the cause, so just reach out to those. And if you can't find your own resources, then make your own. Start your own club or start your own organization, or just join others. Help anyone that is already starting with the movement, and help yourself.
Phoebe, this is kind of an Idaho question here. So living in a conservative community and not having the same, coming to Portland maybe is even a culture shock. What does it mean to fight for climate justice in your community, and how do you think that maybe compares with fighting for climate justice in Portland? And what kind of strategies do you kind of recommend for communicating with folks who totally have fascist worldviews sometimes? How do you do that and still be effective?
To put it simply, it's very hard. I have been passionate about climate work pretty much since I can remember, but it has taken me up until probably last year to be able to actually find anywhere and do anything that I can be involved with. And yeah, it is kind of a culture shock coming to Portland, seeing all of you here, and you all came with your schools. It was organized by your school. That's a really big thing to me. Because I came on my own. My mom drove me here. I'm the only person from Forest Grove here. So yeah, I don't know. Just kind of like what Sariah was saying, like you really just have to reach out and look on your own, and you have to find something that you can do. And it's really hard. It's been really hard for me. But yeah, you kind of just have to put yourself out there and accept that people, especially in maybe more conservative rural communities, are not going to be very accepting of it. It's going to be really hard to get people to pay attention to what you want them to listen to. But I mean, even the little things that maybe don't go over how you want them to make a difference, and they bring awareness to the things that are important to you.
Yeah. But not everything's all rosy in Portland too. Adah, maybe you could speak to what change you'd like to see specifically in Portland public schools regarding climate justice and everything that intersects with that. And kind of what advice you have for students who want to help make that happen too.
Yeah, so I do want to start by saying like the climate crisis response policy that PPS passed is incredible. It is an incredible start to making a really big impact in our district. And I also want to say that that policy wouldn't have been possible without the work of student activists and community members coming together to push the district to pass the policy. Like, our school district is not going to pass these things without the active and sustained support and pressure from people like us. And so I think it's also important to recognize that everything that's written in the policy is great. And from here, it's about making sure that the things that are in the policy are actually enacted and holding our district accountable to following through with those things, because our futures are literally depending on them upholding the promises that they're making about climate. And so in addition to following through with everything in the climate crisis response policy, I want to take a second to talk about what the Green New Deal for schools is, that the Sunrise Movement is fighting for at a national level. Essentially, the Green New Deal for schools would ensure free and healthy lunches for all students. It would demand that our schools teach us the truth about the climate crisis. It would provide us pathways to green jobs, and it would fix our buildings and buses to be safe and clean. And so this is a local fight that is fueling a fight at a national level. And so all across the country right now, there are student groups that are petitioning their school districts to pass a Green New Deal for schools. And this summer, Sunrise Movement is hosting a summer camp with about 300 students where folks can learn about how to run this campaign in their schools. And I really want to encourage y'all to check it out, because PPS has come a long way, but we do need a Green New Deal for our schools here in PPS. And so this summer, there can be an opportunity to come together with hundreds of young people from all across the country and learn organizing skills and learn more about the Green New Deal for schools and how we can win it here. And that's definitely like an opportunity I would recommend to get involved in. And feel free to ask me. Come up to me, talk to me about it afterwards. Would love to talk more.
Thank you so much, Adah, for just talking about that amazing campaign, specifically just in regards to schools and sort of getting youth involved. With that, I just want to hear from you about like why you believe it's so important that the voices of the youth need to be centered. I know that's a very broad question, but just why is it so important that everyone is here, and why we are the ones that need to be sort of advocating for climate justice?
Yeah. Throughout history, change in society has always been led by young people like us, who are able to see with this really striking clarity the things that are messed up in our world and what needs to be done about it. I think a lot of adults who work in these spheres, even who are like very sympathetic to the cause, don't necessarily understand with the full sense of urgency that people like us do, people who are growing up into this future. And so something that has been really interesting about being like a teenager in these often really adult-dominated organizing spaces is seeing that oftentimes even people who care, adults who care, are still really bogged down in this idea of like what is politically possible, or like what works within the current way that bureaucracy is set up. And what our generation is really able to see is that we aren't going to be able to stop the climate crisis by doing things the same way that we always have. That we need to change these systems to work better for us, and we are going to do that. And so it's important both because the people in power aren't the people who are growing up into this future, and also because we really do have this urgency and this energy that is going to carry the movement forward.
Thank you. Phoebe, I want to ask you the same question. Just coming from Forest Grove and living in a rural community, why, not just in climate justice in general, but living in a rural community, why is it so important that, the voices of you and your classmates are the ones that are being heard by local government?
Yeah, I think it's so important because my community specifically relies very heavily on agriculture. It's a really big thing, and a lot of my peers, a lot of the people that I know that are graduating into an agricultural-based career, or they're graduating into a family farm or something like that. And a lot of them, I don't think, understand the impacts of monoculture and the amount of water we use and the way we use water and all the stuff like that, just land use in general. And I think it's really important for people going into those things to understand the way that they do things and how that can be changed to be better. Yeah, I don't know. I lost my train of thought.
That's great. That's great. Ellie, Sariah, do y'all want to touch on that? Why are youth voices impactful, and what progress have you seen when youth voices are centered that maybe wouldn't have otherwise happened?
Well, I think that it's super important that youth voices are centered because, it's their future that they're about to grow up into, and they should definitely have a voice in what their future is going to look like. And like previous people have said, the people that are making the big decisions right now aren't the ones that are going to be growing up in this world. So, the youth are the people that want to shape their own world, so we should all listen to what they have to say about it. And I feel since that they are younger, they have a different way of seeing the world. They have a more of imagination of what the world could be than the people that have lived in the same world for a while and can't see any other way that we could be as a society. So I think that we should listen to their different imagination and ideas.
You want to touch on that?
Sure. Is it? Okay, it's on. Cool. I also want to say that government only changes when people push it to change. And I think our government right now is dominated by people of a generation that we are not a part of. Older people, majority white men. And I think it's really important that if we want to see change in our community, we fight for it. And I think while, yes, our teachers are amazing and we love you and you're the best people, awesome, you're great, it's really important that we as young people fight for that change because in 20, 30 years, we'll be the ones left to see that change. And so part of that is through being a part of local government and federal government and anything you can work towards. I think it's just really important that we all get involved because it's our future and it's our government and nothing is permanent. You just have to change it through every way possible. Yeah.
Love that. And I think that's probably a great note to conclude the us asking you questions part of this section. And I think now it's time to turn to maybe the audience and hear what questions y'all have for these amazing panelists. Do we want to take a minute and everyone talk to someone sitting next to them about any ideas that came from that, and then maybe you can formulate a question and raise your hand? You want to do that? Okay, ready? 60 seconds starting now. Just kidding. Decapitalize time, guys. All right, y'all. Oh, sorry. Any good questions out there? If you want to raise your hand, and we'll come around with a mic. You got one up here in the front? Wait for the mic.
Hi.
You could introduce yourself, say your name, pronouns, where you're from, and then ask your question. Sorry. That's the last thing I'll say.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Annie Dwan. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a sophomore at Jesuit High School, so I'm not part of the Portland Public School District. But I am a first-generation Chinese American, and I just want to know, how do you guys put BIPOC folks at the forefront of the climate justice movement? Because as a person of color, I do feel a little bit underrepresented seeing this board today.
Well, I am a person of color, so I like to think that I am at the forefront. But I guess just like talking to like new communities and new areas, like not just centralizing it as like the government or like in like mostly white places, but like branching out. And like the strike on this last Friday, we had speakers from different cultures and just like really branching out and like asking them to share their own voices and what they have to say and how it affects them differently than us.
Yeah, I'll also say that like this panel likely does not represent like the Portland climate movement, or at least the movement that we're trying to build. And historically, the climate movement, or at least the environmental movement, has been very dominated by white people. And so a big part of the work that we do is trying to get people in the public to understand that like this is not just about like the environment and nature. Like this is an issue of racial justice and economic justice, and the climate crisis intersects with so many other things. And so trying to get everyone to understand that like this is about our everyday lives, and especially like when we talk about climate justice in schools, we can't talk about that without talking about how schools historically have been like really like divided by race and by class, and BIPOC students are always suffering like the greatest impacts of environmental injustice. And so trying to keep that at the forefront of our work.
My name is Jinx. I'm a sophomore at McDaniel High School, and I use they, it, he pronouns. And I want to know, like, how can I, like, do something when, like, how do I act when I can't go to, like, a climate strike?
I can say my first climate strike I've ever gone to was on Friday. And I found, other than that, just finding organizations of your own accord that you can get involved with. I don't know what aspect of the climate fight you're interested in. I'm very interested in conservation. I volunteered at the Oregon Zoo for a while, and that was really helpful. It really made me feel like I was doing something because they're a very conservation-oriented program, stuff like that. If there's something happening with your personal city council that you are not a fan of, going to those meetings, trying to organize, trying to make yourself heard is a really good way to feel like you are contributing and that you're doing something that makes you feel helpful.
I will also say, showing up here today, I'm assuming you came with school. Yeah, going to your class or your club or whoever you came through, going to those events and showing up here is another really massive piece of it, right? You're being so helpful and you're contributing massively to the fight just by being here and listening to all the speakers and doing the art projects and doing all the things. You're making a difference anyway.
Yeah, I would also say with that, obviously going to climate strikes is just one way to participate, but I think that reading books and articles and just educating yourself on what's happening in the climate crisis is immensely important, because there will come a day when we're all adults and we've grown up and we're gonna be the ones sort of creating the systems in which we live. So the more educated you are and the more sort of ingrained you get these ideas in your mind when you're a kid, the easier it's gonna be for you to sort of grow up and just be able to see green solutions as common rather than some sort of radical idea. So yeah, just reading books and being on social media. There's all sorts of fantastic resources. Everywhere you look, someone's resharing an Instagram story. So it's a really awesome opportunity that we're living in this age of social activism through social media, and you're able to just sort of engage with it 24/7. So yeah, just spending as much time as you can to educate yourself is immensely important.
And I just let's take a moment. I think that's what's beautiful about the climate justice movement is it's not all activists, it's not all people who stand up on a pedestal. It's regular people, it's artists, it's engineers, it's scientists, it's students, it is speakers, but it's also actors and actresses and performers, and there's space for everybody in the movement. And I think that's somewhat represented on the panel today is y'all have very different backgrounds and ways you got involved in climate action and things that you've done within your own community, which is so, that's just very representative of the future that we want to build, which is one for everybody, not just for the folks who, got vocal lessons and know how to talk in front of our room. And I think that's so powerful. Do we have any other questions from folks in the audience? Yeah, right here. I can just.
Adults can ask questions too.
I'm Michael Myers. I go by any pronouns, but I prefer cool ones. And I guess my question would be, with so many different issues that present with both climate and political and local stuff, how do you prevent tunnel vision, especially when change is so slight?
I read a lot of articles. I spend a lot of time reading a plethora of different things from different sources, just to make sure I'm educated on all the things I can be educated about. As hard as it is sometimes to read things from people you don't agree with, it's very important for hearing all the points of view on all the things and knowing all the stuff and the things. Yeah, that's how I do it. And if I get overwhelmed, I take a break, because that's also really important to not getting tunnel vision. Take a break, go on a walk, get outside. It's really nice this week. Go outside, be in nature. Yeah. Someone else?
Yeah, I also think it's important to recognize that the climate crisis is such a huge issue, and you don't have to be fighting every single part of it on your own. And I think that a lot of the time, social media often urges us to be care about this thing, oh my goodness, why isn't anybody doing anything about this? And yes, that makes sense, because there's so many problems in the world and there's so many things that we need to be doing something about. But ultimately, each of us are one person, and we cannot be panicking about every single thing all the time, because that is just a pathway to burnout. And so I would really recommend don't lose sight of the broader picture and recognizing that what you're fighting for is interconnected with all of these other things, but also don't beat yourself up about not focusing on every single thing all the time. I, throughout my advocacy, have been really focused on the intersection of transportation and transportation and climate, specifically opposing freeway expansions. And that's not the only climate issue in the state by far, but it's something that I feel I can make a really serious impact on by staying in that one sort of category of things that connects with a lot of other stuff. But just recognizing that each of us are one person, but then in this room, there's so many of us. And if all of us are fighting in the little different categories of things and all of the different realms, that together is going to make a really big impact. So no one person has to do everything.
I also think, along with the idea that one person needs to be working on something or that one person doesn't need to be working on something alone, is that a win is a win, no matter how small it is. I think any sort of advancement or achievement is a win, and it's really hard to focus on that because they feel so few and far between. But it's important just to recognize within your community when something successful happens. You just have to take a moment and just recognize that we're not going to be able to fix everything at once, but when something good does happen, you just have to revel in that good feeling for a little bit, which is something that Adah and I have focused a lot in our climate work together, is just bringing a group of people together and saying, we can't accomplish everything at once, but if we can do one thing, then that's better than nothing.
As Susie Kasuf says, if you finish a campaign, you have to throw a party.
Yeah.
She said, you want to say that on the mic?
As Susie Kasuf over there says, if you finish a campaign, you have to throw a party to celebrate that you did it. It's really easy to get caught up in like the next thing. So.
Well, we're gonna start to wrap up, but I just wanna, oh, we have another question. Sorry.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shannon, and I teach climate justice at Roosevelt High School. One of the things I was thinking of is even as a climate justice teacher, I don't know what's going on and how to elevate your voices. If there's an event coming up, what's a place that I can go so I'm networked and I know what's going on?
Okay.
Like for the climate justice strike and walkout, how would I know that's happening?
PYCS.org.
Yeah, pycs.org. You can also follow Portland Climate Strike on Instagram, where there's a lot of updates about things like that. There's also a website that's sort of like in the process of getting started called the Oregon Climate Action Hub, where a bunch of different organizations can all like post about their upcoming events and opportunities. And I think that there are also like some networks of teachers across the district who are paying attention to climate things, that information gets shared around. But overall, we're still trying to create networks and systems so that everyone can be aware of what's going on.
And ask your students. I know it's kind of an awkward thing to have a teacher ask a kid about what's going on, but I think that students know a lot more than you expect, and they know what's happening with climate strikes. I know one thing that we focused on in the strike movement is getting a school lead from each Portland metro area high school to sort of be the pinpoint person for coordinating the strike at their school. So they're an awesome resource, but just asking students about what's going on and what you can be doing is really impactful.
So yeah, if there's any other questions? Sweet. Oh, you have one, Sophia? Name, pronouns, and school. Say your name, pronouns, and school.
Okay. I'm Sophia Baldwin, and my pronouns are she, her, and I'm in 8th grade, and I don't really know how to have my voice heard because I'm really young, and I don't really know what to do because people don't listen to me, and they don't think my opinion's important. So how do I get my voice heard more?
Phoebe, how did you get your voice heard?
Okay, sorry guys, I just really trust Adah.
I trust you too.
I didn't stop talking. You just have to keep talking. You just have to annoy them, whoever them is in your life. Any adults that you feel like will listen to you or won't. Just keep talking. Just keep saying what you think is important. I don't know what your schooling is like. I don't know if there's any way for you to start a club, get involved with a club, even maybe find a teacher that you could be like, hey, this is really important to me. That's a really good, easy way to get involved. You just really just have to keep using your voice. And it, for me, took a really long time for it to do anything. But if you stop talking, people will stop listening. So.
I would also say keep showing up. It's really easy to get discouraged. It's not easy fighting for our climate because so many people don't care and so many people don't listen, especially when you're under the age of 18, even when you're over the age of 18. But I think keep showing up if you really care about anything. It doesn't even need to be climate work. Anything you care about, keep showing up for it, keep fighting for it. That's the only way things get done. And there are people who care. I promise. Just got to find the right people. Yeah.
And I also just want to add, like, I started organizing in middle school, and I remember sitting in a lot of rooms with a lot of high school organizers and feeling, like, really intimidated. But I want you to know that throughout this work, like, there are going to be a lot of people who tell you, like, oh, like, you're too young or you don't know enough, but you do. Like, your lived experience is more than enough, and we need everybody's voice in this movement. And so I encourage you and anyone else here who's, like, looking to get involved, check out Portland Youth Climate Strike. We're trying to get people to join our team for next year. We would love to have some younger students. Yeah, there are ways to find people who care and work together.
Cool. Thank you. So we've just got a couple minutes left. We're going to give a little lightning round to you guys really quickly. What is just your vision for the future? That's a very broad question. Answer that however you want. Yeah. No thinking time, just go.
Peace, love, and harmony. There we go. Peace, love, and harmony, guys.
I have a really broad dream of living in a world where I'm not constantly plagued by climate anxiety. So that's my goal.
I want schools to be a place of community and collaboration. I want people to go to school and feel like they're cared for and heard. I want people to be able to take buses to school and have it not take a super long time. Good public transportation, and like a system that actually cares about our humanity and empowers us to work together and learn from one another.
I would say a life where, like, you don't have to, like, fear things such as, like, school shootings or sexual assault or the doom of, like, not having a planet to live on. Like, just, like, being able to, like focus on school or, like, focus on, like, your activities, just, like, being at peace.
And Sariah, we're going to put you on the spot. Ready? Do you have hope for our future?
Yes, I mean, this
And
room,
why?
Okay, this room would be, I guess, hope. I mean, the fact that so many people come out and show up, or the strike on Friday, how many people came to that, or just, like, how many people that reach out to me and say that they want to be a part of the movement shows that, I mean, as long as people still care about it, I guess there's always hope.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I just want to give a round of applause to our amazing panelists. And to all of you for being here. Thank you guys all so much. We're going to take a picture really quickly. And then we're going to move into lunch. Yay. Thank you guys for sitting so patiently and kindly this morning.